One baseball game once took 8 hours and 25 minutes to play, and when it finally ended, 2 months had passed. 33 innings. 2 future Hall of Famers. A freezing night that refused to die. It happened in a minor league park almost nobody outside New England had ever heard of. No pennant on the line. No national cameras. Just 2 farm teams and a few hundred fans who came out on a cold Saturday in April. By the time the sun came up, it had become the longest game in the history of professional baseball, a record that still stands today. This is the story of the night that broke the clock. April 18, 1981. McCoy Stadium, Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Home of the Pawtucket Red Sox, the AAA affiliate of Boston, one single run below the major leagues. The last stop before the show. The visitors were the Rochester Red Wings, the top farm club of the Baltimore Orioles. It should have been an ordinary night. It wasn't even a warm one. The wind came howling through the open grandstand off Narragansett Bay. The temperature slid down toward freezing. The stadium lights buzzed on against a black sky, and the flags in center field stood straight out in the gale. Players blew into their hands in the dugout before they were even called to hit. And on that miserable field, 2 young infielders took their positions who would one day be enshrined in Cooperstown. For Pawtucket, a skinny, unproven third baseman named Wade Boggs, years away from becoming one of the greatest pure hitters the sport would ever produce. For Rochester, a lanky 20-year-old shortstop named Ripken Jr., years away from playing 2,632 consecutive games and rewriting what the word durability even meant. Neither of them knew what was coming. Nobody in that ballpark did. The first pitch was thrown at 8:25 in the evening. 9 innings came and went. The score was tied, 1-1. And in baseball, there is no clock. You do not run out the time. You play until somebody wins. So they kept playing. 10 innings. 11. 12. The fans pulled their coats tighter and huddled together. The concession stands ran dry of coffee, then hot chocolate, then everything. And still, nobody could push across the single run that would send everyone home to bed. By midnight, this was no longer an ordinary game. And then someone went looking for the rule that would end it, and discovered it wasn't there. Professional baseball had a curfew rule. No new inning was supposed to begin after a certain late hour. It existed for exactly this reason, to stop a game that simply would not die. But the copy of the rulebook sent to the umpires that season was missing the page. The curfew language wasn't in the book they were holding in their hands. As far as the men on the field could tell, there was no rule to invoke. Nothing to stop it. So the umpires had no authority to call it. They tried to reach the president of the International League, a man named Harold Cooper, for a ruling. But it was the dead of night. He was asleep at home, and for hours no one could get him on the phone. So the game went on. And on. And on. The temperature kept falling. Desperate to stay warm, players lit a fire in a 55-gallon drum inside the clubhouse, breaking apart an old rack of wooden bats and feeding them into the flames just to keep feeling in their fingers between innings. Broken bats, burning, so grown men could grip a baseball. In the top of the 21st inning, Rochester finally scratched across a run. 2-1. It looked, at last, like the end. And then, in the bottom of that same inning, Wade Boggs did something he would spend years half regretting. He drove in the tying run. 2-2. He had saved his team, and in the same swing, he had guaranteed the nightmare would go on. His own frozen teammates weren't sure whether to hug him or throw him into the bat fire. 2-2. And it stayed 2-2. Inning after inning after inning. 25. 28. 30. Pitchers threw until their arms went numb and their coaches lost count. Batters swung at pitches they could barely see under the buzzing lights. The scoreboard operator ran out of space. The board wasn't built to hold this many innings, so the extra frames just went blank. By 3 in the morning, the wives and the families were long gone. A few players' young children were asleep in the empty stands, wrapped in blankets and coats. By 4 in the morning, only 19 fans remained, 19, in a ballpark built to hold 6,000. Finally, at 4:07 in the morning, after 32 full innings, Harold Cooper was reached at last. He gave the order. The game was suspended. Not finished. Not decided. Suspended, to be completed on some later date. The men had been on that field for more than 8 hours. The sky over Rhode Island was already turning gray. Dawn was coming. And the 19 fans who somehow stayed until the bitter end were each rewarded with a lifetime pass to McCoy Stadium. Whatever else happened to them, they would never pay for a ticket again. But the game wasn't over. It was frozen, tied, unresolved, hanging in the air like a held breath. And when it finally came back, the entire world would be watching. The game resumed on June 23, 1981, more than 2 months later. And in those 2 months, everything had changed. Major League Baseball had gone on strike. The big leagues went completely dark. The most famous players in America put down their gloves and walked off the job. And suddenly, the hungriest baseball story left in the entire country was a half-finished, 32-inning minor league game sitting frozen in a small park in Rhode Island. The press came running. Reporters flew in from across the United States. From England. From Japan. Camera crews packed the aisles. A game that only 19 people had watched crawl into the dawn now had the eyes of the world jammed into McCoy Stadium, waiting to see how it would end. They did not have to wait long. In the bottom of the 33rd inning, with the bases loaded, a Pawtucket first baseman named Dave Koza stepped to the plate. Koza was a career minor leaguer, a good man and a good hitter who would never play a single day in the major leagues. This was as close to the spotlight as his life in baseball would ever bring him. He lined a single into left field. The winning run crossed the plate. After 8 hours and 25 minutes of baseball, stretched across 2 different nights and 66 days, it was finally, mercifully over. Pawtucket 3, Rochester 2. The resumed portion had lasted all of 18 minutes. The numbers still stand to this day. 33 innings. 8 hours and 25 minutes. The longest game in professional baseball history, a record no team has ever come close to breaking. And the sport learned its lesson. Curfew rules were re-examined and firmly enforced. Never again would a missing page in a rulebook let a game run screaming past the sunrise. But the deeper legacy isn't the rule. It's what the night itself became. Cal Ripken Jr. would go on to play 2,632 straight games, the Iron Man, the player who refused to ever sit down. And there is something almost written in the stars about the fact that he was standing there, at shortstop, on the coldest and longest night the game has ever staged, back when he was just a kid nobody in the world knew. Wade Boggs would collect more than 3,000 hits and walk into Cooperstown himself. 2 Hall of Famers, forged, before either was famous, in a game most of the planet slept straight through. And Dave Koza, the man who actually ended the whole thing, never reached the majors at all. His single is one of the most famous base hits in the history of the sport, and almost nobody can tell you his name. That is the strange gift of that frozen April night. It didn't crown a champion. It didn't decide a pennant or a title. It just refused to end, and in refusing, it became immortal. A minor league game. A half-empty park. A freezing wind off the bay. Played by men who mostly never made it, and it outlasted every single game played before it or since. So here's the question. In a sport built entirely around winners and records and champions, why is it the one game that decided absolutely nothing that we remember most of all? Follow for more.